and welcome back to a new episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast, the podcast where two dudes from halfway across the world talk everything green and gold. I'm Mike, and that's Iowa Joe, and tonight we celebrate. The Packers have knocked off the defending Super Bowl champions and have clawed their ways back to 500, and on top of that, they control their playoff destiny. Joe, what are you feeling right now? How excited does this team have you at this junction of the season?
Well, tonight really had me excited. I want to say like I'm overjoyed and everything else, but I also want to be back down to earth and realize this is still a young team. We're still, uh what's cliche? We're out kicking our coverage right now. So I still want to be grounded. I don't want to be overexcited for it. Right now, it's just one of those things that I want to be. I'm along for the ride, and whatever happens, happens. We're going to see a lot of twists. We're going to see a lot of turns. We're going to have a lot of bumps in the roads, but we can celebrate while this stuff happens. And to have them beat the Kansas City Chiefs when, again, like last week with the Lions, everybody pretty much had us counted out against the Chiefs. I think you're a little bit more on the betting odds than I am, but I want to say that the Packers were or the Chiefs were 7-point favorites or something like that, 7.5-point favorites,
6.5 or something like that. Yeah, it moved a little bit. I think it might have gotten up above 7 right before kickoff when they announced the inactives when Jair was out, but it's a heck of a win regardless. And yeah, like I felt like we had a decent chance when everyone on the Sunday Night Football crew picked the Chiefs to win. That always seems to work well when there's a unanimous pick either way. But I know, just what a game. Like you said, we're probably at the stage of like just slightly out over our skis and they're starting to catch up to themselves. But we just saw probably the best game that just the offense has played to support its defense, complementary in that sense, because
it's been the most complimentary game we've had pretty much all season, other than this past Lions game. These last two games have been the most complimentary out of them all. And I'm like I said, I'm happy, I'm grateful. It's a wonderful time. Victory Monday is going to be amazing. Well, technically we're in Victory Monday right now, but it's an amazing thing. Like I said, I'm trying to temper myself because it's like I don't want to get overexcited and then feel let down when they, at some point if they crash. But I mean, realistically speaking, and we'll go through this the rest of the year, the teams that we're playing in the next few weeks aren't the cream of the crop. We just got through our hardest part of the schedule. So realistically, they could make the playoffs. I want to go way back, way back, way back. I said from the beginning that this team could be anywhere from a 3-win team to a 10-win team. Just the way that they were built. They were either going to go 3-13 or they were going to go 10-6. Or I might even have said 11-5. But, it's still one of those things that's where we're at with this team at the moment. They're either going to be really, 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 really sky high because of the youth and the talent they have, or they're going to be really, 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 really rock bottom because of the youth that they have. So, yeah, it's quite the ride that we're on right now.
Yeah, it's kind of neat that so far we've sort of seen both of those things happen so far this season.
Right.
And honestly, I'm glad that we saw them get down and then they've seen them pick themselves back up, because I think that's the better I guess the better and more important thing to see is what you do when you do get punched in the face, and if you're going to get yourself off the mat. And I think what this last 5 games are showing is that it wasn't that it wasn't that they couldn't because they didn't want to. They just couldn't get off the mat because they weren't ready to, kind of thing. Like they just didn't have all the things they needed in order to get themselves off the mat and get back in the fight. But great to see this team bounce back like they have the past few. And like you said, through the part of their schedule where, when they went to, 2-5, you're kind of like, well, crap, that was the part of their schedule that they were supposed to bank wins to have a good looking record at the end. And now it's like, oh, okay, like Like if we were we kind of talked about this in our preseason preview where it's like we could easily see the team being 500 at this point, but
Yeah.
I don't think either of us thought that they would be 500 the way that they are 500. Like it,
Right.
just being totally honest, like you said, with what this team was coming into the season, that wouldn't have been anyone's expectations that they would beat two of the strongest teams on their schedule back to back weeks. Just monumental stuff. And at the heart of it all, like you said, the most important thing this season is Jordan Love getting the read on it. And confront it. I hope Gutekunst is printing the contract now because honestly, Love has raised his level of play every week, and this was by far the best defense he's played all season, and he came out of it with flying colors. Like,
I
especially
still think that, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mike, but I
no.
still think they're going to wait until next year to make a contract or get a contract done with him. I still think they're going to give him through this year, and then next year, if he continues to build on it throughout the rest of the season, I think it makes more sense to try to give him the contract next year because the way more money comes off the book, so they open up more that they can rearrange the type of contract that he'll be getting, and you don't want to have, a lot of people are, and I agree with, like Westendorf and those guys, you don't want to give him the Daniel Jones contract just based off of a few games. So, like I said, I really think and I could be completely wrong. I've been wrong about a lot of things in my life, and it's never going to end with that point. But I just feel that they'll go through the rest of the season. They'll go into next season. Hell, it might even happen before the season. Who knows? But I just think when they open up, when they know there's more money coming off the books, they'll be able to say, okay, this is the type of contract that we're going to give him.
yeah, I just think that there's a couple things. I think if we're feeling what we're feeling outside of the building, I think that what like Gutekunst and LaFleur are thinking inside the building is like all their beliefs going into this season are being or have been vindicated. And I don't think even they thought that he would look this good against some of these defense that he's faced. So I can see I agree with parts of what you're saying, but I think that there's a part of Groot and especially Ball that's like as much as they can get ahead of it, from the team's point of view, the earlier you sign a deal, the more quote unquote team friendly it's going to be, kind of thing, and stuff like that. And the more years he still has left on his current contract, the more you can play with the money that's going to come on the tacked on years and stuff. So, but either way, it's going to get done. I think, the only thing that would change that is, knock on wood, and not anything that we're in no way, shape, or form want to happen. But the only thing at this point that's going to change their mind is if there's some kind of off the field or catastrophic injury that comes up, kind of thing and stuff. So, but speaking of his on the field play, Jordan was just on fire tonight, especially the first two drives of the game. I thought the first two drives were some of his best football, better than honestly he played against Detroit, because as good as Detroit's defense has been, and as much as they kicked our butts back in week 4, this secondary is a much better secondary that the Chiefs had than what the Lions have. So I thought that Jordan looked so good this game. I thought that his ball placement and accuracy was really good tonight. We've seen a substantial uptick in that department over the course of the season. No, like just straight up, run it deep kind of vertical shots, but I thought his downfield passing accuracy was good. I know there was some luck on the fourth down throw to Dobbs, but as much as it was partly luck, that guys were in the quote unquote right spot, he did put that ball the one spot it had to be, basically. And then there were a couple other shots where he had chances on plays, and so I just think that we're seeing an uptick in everything. The only couple like negatives I've got was I thought his first sack was a bad sack to take. And then the throw he made right before his first touchdown to Watson, where if it's like a little more, I guess, on target to Watson, Justin Reed might have returned that for a pick 6. But you're gonna have that with him, and I think he was kind of overplaying the pressure. He needs to just stick his foot in the ground and make that throw. But I mean, he then on the very next play, he steps up beautifully in the pocket and delivers an absolute seed to Watson in the end zone. So um the game within the game, I thought Love was kind of rolling with what Kansas City threw his way and just made stuff happen all night.
Well, now as the game was going on, and see, you're more my analytical guy, so I'm wondering if this went through your head. How smart did you think I was when you started seeing some of the play calls that they were making? Because what did I say the last review show? They need to come out fast. They need to go up tempo. They need to throw. Jordan's going to get a lot of his yards from those little pop passes that we saw from Rodgers a few years back to that's how he was going to get a lot of his yards was the little pop passes. And that's what we started seeing this first part of the game. And, like I said, that's the way they were going to be able to handle that defense. They weren't going to be able to just hope that the offensive line holds up and Jordan can have 3 minutes to throw a ball. No, you're going to have to you're going to have to make it quick shots. That's what's going to open up the deep routes. Like you said, there was no real true deep shots, but they were still medium routes that were getting hit for decent chunk yards. And everybody stepped up. This is the thing that's great about the LaFleur offense is they don't target just one specific guy. It's built around spreading that ball to everybody. And that's pretty much what he did. If you go
Yep.
through the stats, not one single guy got 100 yards, but multiple guys got 60 plus yards. So, and the only one that's got stacked on stats per se is Christian Watson with the multiple touchdowns. But
Yeah.
that's just the thing about his offense.
And honestly, even Watson and Reed's stats today are a little deceiving because, like you said, of those like little push passes that they got. Like Watson got a couple. I know Reed definitely got two of them, and that's why Reed's stats he looks like he has running back stats today in terms of his receiving totals. But yeah, we kind of, and I got why they wanted to get Watson like integrated as fast as possible, but I thought they overcorrected in that sense when he came back against the Lions in the first Thursday night game, where I thought they tried too hard to force feed the ball to Watson. And this, like you said, this offense has really just looked good when they've spread the ball, they spread the love around. And I you obviously want a number one wide receiver, but more in the sense that it sets the pecking order for the rest of the receiving corps, not necessarily to be a guy that's going to get 15 targets a game kind of thing. Like, it's great to have a Devontae who's like a guy who's always right kind of thing, but it does help. Like, it's always good to have a sure answer for when the going gets tough, but in the general flow of a game, it's a lot more it raises your efficiency when you can throw to any of the five eligible guys on the field and stuff.
Right,
So
and look at what years were the more successful wide receiving cores we had, where there wasn't a true number one receiver. There were multiple guys that played multiple different roles, and Rodgers could, if it wasn't Jordy, it was Jennings. If it wasn't Jennings, it was Driver. If it wasn't Driver, it was Jones or Cobb or, that kind of thing. They had different guys that could step up. There's one thing I have to say about Watson that I would like to not see going forward. I don't want to see him taking into rounds anymore. And it's not because he's not athletically capable to do it. I just don't think he has that running back like mentality where he can weave through things. When he just he how do I want to explain this? You're my analytical mind, so you probably could explain it a little bit better, but he seemed way too indecisive when it came to wanting to run that end around.
yeah, I know what you mean. So like I thought the one before he got hurt on, I thought he made a much better read on that one because he didn't just because the first one I thought he tried too hard to get to the sideline, but there was room if he. I know that everyone's like, oh, but the whole point of the play is to get outside. But that first one he got, the whole Chiefs defense went right to the near sideline, and you've got to. And we've seen Reed do it where he just sticks his foot in the ground and he cuts back against the grain. And I know that you're potentially going into traffic, but you saw the first Watson one where he's like, no, I can outrun everyone to the sideline. And then when he gets outside the hashes, he's kind of like, oh, it's getting a little tight out here. I might not make it. And then he only picks up like 2 yards, and you're like, you go inside, you get at least 5, like easy kind of thing and stuff.
And
And
even the second one, even though he had a clear chunk, and I don't know if that's more because he injured or whatever, but he still didn't look quite decisive when he
yeah,
got out there. It just so happened that I think uh I think Kraft threw a decent block,
yeah.
and that opened him up a little bit more. And then, like I said, maybe because of the injury, he couldn't push it to. And I don't know. I
And
didn't get to
also the
watch the
field
presser.
conditions, because that's I know they had the tarp down and stuff, but there had been like steady precipitation throughout the early part of the day and stuff like that. So I don't know how much that affected. They were kind of talking about that, especially from the Chiefs point of view. You saw it on I think it was Watson's second reception of the game where he kind of hit or it was on the 2-minute drive ahead of the end of the first half where they convert the first third down of that drive, and Watson hits the brakes, and the DB falls down like next to him, kind of thing. And so, it didn't look like it wasn't the slop fest like the Minnesota game was, or even like the Rams game was earlier this season. But it sounded like it wasn't super sound footing tonight. So that's one of those that not even film review is really going to be able to tell us. But
Right.
yeah, I do think that the good thing is that they have 2 guys that they trust to do those the jet sweeps and the end arounds, and I'm glad they use both of them to do it, because it sets up
Yeah,
different looks for the offense and all.
and I get wanting to use Watson. The last few times that they've done an in around with Watson, I've not been overly impressed with it. And I'm not saying Watson's a bad player. Don't anybody take this like I'm trying to bash Watson at all. He played great tonight. He was making the right he was running the right routes, his hands, he was fighting for the ball. Everything was great. I just don't think he's got those running back type eyes like a Jaden Reed or something like that. I'd like to see what Dontavian Wicks could do on an end around, just because we've seen how he can run a route. He may not have the top end speed like a Watson or a Reed, but he's got the wiggle in him to break
Yeah.
some stuff out. But speaking of wide receivers, how about that hop back from my boy Malik Heath? That was sick. Don't tell me that wasn't sick. That was
I think
basketball
Herman
worthy
Herman
hop back.
tweeted what we were all thinking, and it was like, I did not think that he had that in him to make that move. That was, yeah, that's not what because you're thinking, when you look at Heath, you're thinking like a physical, not like a 6'5" Lazard, but that kind of body type where he's just like, I'm gonna box you out and use my frame to get open. And I don't think even the Green Bay players expected him to do that, because they were all kind of blocking him to just cut up fields kind of thing. And I forget who someone was, because someone ran a route to the sideline, and he was trying to like kind of cut back underneath of Heath to come and get a block. And even he was like, oh, like you got out here kind of and stuff. So,
It was a
um,
sick move, man.
yeah.
I mean, I can't
And it was a big play, especially after he had that bad drop a few plays before it. So,
and I
it was,
can't fully blame the drop on him because I can't remember who it was that was cutting across.
yeah.
Even Collinsworth and Tarico were like, we can't put it all
It's
on
not an
him.
easy play, but it's one you want him to make if you're going to
Right.
be in the game, kind of thing.
He
But
just lost concentration because that other guy was coming in on him.
yeah, but otherwise, like you said, it was just a good day. Like, no one
Man, he
really
looked
had a,
like a mid-round wide receiver, instead of an undrafted. Because even on that the end around that we were talking about with Watson, where it was a, a, a double fake, where Love gave it
yeah,
to Heath and Heath flipped it over to Watson. I mean, he looked amazing on that too, and he
yeah.
wasn't really even doing anything.
Well, and then like if you listen to Paul Noonan during the reporting as eligible during the preseason, he was kind of noting how like Heath was definitely a draftable guy, but off the field stuff, that
Oh, if you go
yeah,
back to my notes, I can grab my notebook. I
yeah,
said right from the start, and I think even Malik came out and said something to that effect that he just wasn't giving it his all at Ole
right,
Miss,
yeah.
and had he tried a little bit harder, you know, he would have, he probably would have been drafted. I think I can't remember what round I said I had him in, but I said he could be easily like a maybe like a third round pick had he even given 50%. So it
Because
just
once you get labeled as a locker room problem and like a slacker and stuff, that thing you never really work that off until you get like a clean slate kind of thing. So
especially coming
yeah,
from Ole Miss with as many wide receivers as they've been producing the last few years. So that I just love it. I love seeing him do his
yeah.
thing. And like I said, the whole wide receiving core today just
Nobody
was
had any
amazing.
glaring issues today. Like, yeah, it was a very clean game from the wide receiver room today. Like, like in terms of missed opportunity plays, you know, it was the I guess Kraft could if Love doesn't get the floodgates opened on him, Kraft probably has a touchdown on that one tight end screen they tried to run, but the pressure, like it was funny because watching the replay, Kraft is selling the hell out of his block, and meanwhile the O line is like, "We're getting out there," and so Jordan's like, "Oh," like, and so he just whips that thing, and the situations were slightly reversed, where Kraft got out a little earlier and the O line took its time a little more, Kraft probably sees first off, Love isn't just chucking it and ducking kind of thing. The throw is probably on Kraft, and Kraft is just waiting for the ball. And whether or not there was no one out there. Like that was the thing. And
Yeah.
Collinsworth is kind of like, oh, like if Justin Reed, I was like, Justin Reed didn't do crap. It was just a bad throw because if Love could put the throw on Kraft, Kraft is a full 2 steps ahead of Reed, and Reed's only chance is to like swipe his ankles out as he's like falling over on the thing. So
I have to say, the NFL needs to take a hard look at a lot of these commentators anymore because Collinsworth and Tarico were all over the Chiefs knob and they were slobbering like nothing else all over him. And we'll get to it later on, but he even got so bad where they were just reviewing a non call pass interference on the Hail Mary when everybody in the world is saying they never call any kind of pass interference unless it's egregious on a Hail Mary attempt. So
yeah,
and it's not just Collinsworth and Tarico. There's been a lot of that issues with a lot of commentators this year that they don't commentators are supposed to be unbiased except for when they are team commentators. So like if you turn on the radio and you listen to Wayne and Larry, you're going to get biased because they're Packer commentators.
yeah,
They're doing it for Packer radio. They're not doing it for national TV. If you turn on, well, just to use for an example, Minnesota radio, you're going to get
Paul Allen. Yeah.
there you go. I couldn't think of his name. I was going to call him Dick Face. But um you're going to get him and he's going to show bias because he's doing it for Minnesota radio.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the only time you should expect any kind of bias. But for them to show bias on national TV on a Sunday night game, it's terrible. It's a bad look. And I know I can sit here saying that and people are going to say, oh, well, it's just sour grapes. It's sour grapes. No, it really isn't because earlier just within that first minute, they were saying the same thing about the Jonathan Owens hit on Patrick Mahomes. That shouldn't have drew a flag. That shouldn't drew a flag. But yet after the two quote unquote no calls, that disappeared. And all they were worried about were the two no calls, quote unquote no calls. So I really think these networks need to take a real hard look on some of the guys that they're doing commentary and say, hey, stop with the bias. Sorry, I had to
Yep.
get on the soapbox for a minute.
No, and it does honestly, I've just conditioned myself to tune it out already at this point. But you see it when like you're on Twitter and people will be fans of our team and stuff like that. They'll be retweeting just random tweets and stuff like that, and then you start to like click on some profiles and it's like they're not fans of either team. They're just people tuning in and they're like, oh god, like can you stop slobber, can you stop the slob fest and just call the game kind of thing and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And yeah, so my bigger thing is honestly when like you cut away from the game for like replays that don't need replays, or like that kind of stuff. I'm like,
Well, that's what
I'm
I
here to
mean. They
watch
were
football.
picking
Yeah.
apart those two quote unquote no calls that went again, that didn't go Kansas City's way, but they wouldn't show replays of the one that was a legit no call just like seconds before that. That would have went the Packers way. But yeah, anyway, sorry, soapbox, all that stuff. Fuck you guys. And Collinsworth, Tarico, you really need to get your shit together. Collinsworth has been horrible for years, though.
Oh yeah. He just for like that's the thing. I like Tarico. I really like Tarico as a play-by-play guy. I think he's really talented and skilled and stuff. Collinsworth Collinsworth needs to realize that he's not there to out talk the play-by-play guy. Like sometimes silence is good kind of thing and stuff like that. And Tarico's a good one where he'll like prompt Collinsworth for input kind of thing, but it's like not every play needs a 5-minute dissertation kind of thing and stuff. So yeah, but back to the Packers. It like we said, wide receivers were awesome overall. Like and like yeah, so like you said, Heath had the tough drop, and the only other play where there was like a damn it moment was and it's hard to fault Jaden on it, but it was that secondary reaction play where Love breaks the pocket and he sees that Reed has his guy beat deep, and so he throws it up the field, but Reed's like, oh, I gotta come back. Which I know some people like there's different rules and how every team coaches it is different. And the only thing that I'll criticize Jaden on is that so what you're supposed to do is when you see your quarterback roll out, you all roll out in that direction. And you want to see one guy go deep, one guy stay short, and one guy kind of in between and stuff. And what Jaden should see is that there's no one back there with him. So just keep going, dude. Like, just keep going because either you're open and like Love was throwing it to him deep and he thought he would, like they might have a touchdown if Jaden just keeps going. And even if Love doesn't throw it to you, by going deep, you might take the coverage response. You might open up for someone that's already underneath of you. So, like I said, that's kind of like a like a 500 level course correction kind of thing. That's not a 101 thing or anything like that. So,
And really, it's all we're doing is nitpicking because they really didn't
because
have a
like I said,
horrible game for anything.
That's the level of nits of that we're picking tonight because, like I said, it's been not just Love's play, but the whole offense around him, where everyone is just doing a little bit better every week. And, instead of like you can see Jaden is yelling at Christian Watson for running the wrong route kind of thing, or you got two guys who almost run into each other on the same play, or you see like Jordan throw it deep and there's two guys that are like within arm's reach of each other. You're not seeing any of that anymore. The ones where like Ross Uglum or Andy Herman are tweeting it and they're like, what is this play? Nobody runs this play. This play doesn't exist kind of thing and stuff. And so you're not seeing any of that anymore. And kind of to extend on that, the tight ends, Musgrave is on IR. Hope, like we said, maybe they don't get him back this year. You got to be cautious with what, the lacerated kidney. But the stuff we saw from Kraft and Sims tonight, obviously Sims only had the one touchdown, but it was a great sell on his part. Sold that they were blocking for a run. And
he
he's
was
just
blocking pretty good, when he was out there for blocking. So that just right there tells me DeGuara is gone.
That's not the part. The part is Pearson, who came in as the full and must be the name, but
my little bro.
He's the one, especially he's the one that's gonna cost DeGuara his job more than anything else because he is getting movement in the run game. He's not missing people when they send him out. They ran. I've never seen a fullback get, that's not the that's not Justin Huschek or Kyle Huschek on the 49ers with Shanahan calling the plays. I've never seen a fullback get sent on orbit motions like Pearson was getting sent on him today. And I know LaFleur will probably jokingly say like he kind of took that from Shanahan or maybe from McDaniel even, but
I think there's only one time that he kind of missed a block. Otherwise, I thought he was pretty solid
yeah.
too.
And even that one, it was one of those plays where it's like I don't know if that was really the guy he was supposed to block or if he kind of like was like, I'm supposed to go there, but oh, there's definitely nobody blocking this guy. So I bet someone better kind of get a piece of him or something. So, but yeah, I thought Kraft and
And then he
Sims
had
have
a
also just
maybe we need to get him off special teams too, because I think he had the penalty late in the game for his
yeah,
special
and that
teams.
one like I know some people were like, oh, Bisaccia, get your house in, but I'm like, he's a practice squad player. Like I don't know how I don't know how the Packers set up their practice, but you know who knows how much he's actually run that spot in practice during the week kind of thing. So I don't blame him that much. And that's one of those ones where the offside on kickoffs, it's like, are they gonna call it or like are they just feeling like the refs haven't called anything in a long time kind of thing and stuff. So yeah, I didn't that one didn't really raise my eyebrows too much, but I thought Kraft and Sims, like you said, they had a really good game blocking in the run game. And then I thought Kraft was really good and reliable as a pass catcher. Nothing super flashy today, but he was just there as a check down guy. And I thought
He
he had
was
some other plays
doing
where he was
what
kind of,
we had hoped he'd been used for. Instead of using
yeah,
Musgrave in those situations, Kraft needed to have those situations where you dump it off to him and have him make a play. Whereas
yeah,
Musgraves is the guy that you send deep to mismatch against the secondary.
yeah.
Kraft is the
So,
guy that you give the ball and just say, there's three guys over there, you run their ass over and get the first
yeah.
down.
And that kind of ties into LaFleur. I thought he called a really good game tonight. Save for that drive at the end of the first half, I thought he was as aggressive as he needed to be tonight. And then the
And
only other
maybe to
like
start the second half, their drive to start the second half, because even I kind of called it out that they kind of lost like mojo or whatever you want to
yeah,
call it right
and
off
they
the start.
they did need the fourth down conversion to like kind of kicks. I know that
Yeah.
they were like past the 50 and they went for it because they were in plus territory. But yeah, it was a little bit more of a clunky drive than what you saw on especially those first two drives of the game. So yeah, but after that they course corrected again, and really the only other play in the game other than the end of the first half that I really had any complaint on was I did not I appreciate that he was going for the kill shot on that last sack that Jordan took, but I thought that was a little foolhardy to do such a deep drop at that point in the game because and I think Jordan made the right play. Like you can't just chuck it and like the whole point at that point is like, yeah, obviously keep the field goal as short as possible, but you want the clock to move at that point. Like so I thought he did the smart thing to just dive it, like kind of dive forward and take the sack. But
The
I,
only
I thought that was a
complaint that
little
I
too
have,
risky
yeah, the only
to
complaint
yeah.
I have about Jordan for the whole game, and I guess it's really not a complaint because he's been doing so well the last couple weeks, but I think he's got the mobility to do it that maybe not as a first read, but when you start getting to the point where your reads aren't popping loose, don't be afraid to take off with it. And I
Yeah.
think there was a couple of times during this game that he could have easily maybe got more yardage than what happened, or he tried to throw it and when he threw it away or something when he could have at least got 4, 5, 6 yards or whatever on it.
His
So
first sack was kind of like that, where he
yeah,
kind of like, and I agree with you. It's kind of like he's trying to like not fall into, he doesn't want to become Justin Fields, where it's like my first read's gone, I'm running kind of thing and
yeah,
stuff like that. And at the same time, yeah, there's certain moments where it's like just go, like just go, it's okay kind of thing and stuff like that. I think he did have one more play where like he kind of like tried to do the thing Mahomes did on the 3rd and 18, where he tried to like step towards the line of scrimmage and draw the defense
yeah.
up and then float it, and the ball kind of just ended up going into no man's land. But yeah, there's a couple of those where you're like, just go get us 5 yards.
Just
Like,
go. You
yeah,
you could have
they're
got the
gonna get us
first
a
down or
cheap and
something.
easy 5 yards kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. So I
And
know.
that even opens up a little bit where on some of the fourth downs, you could do a QB out,
Yeah.
where you fake the handoff to Dylan and have him hit, and you just, you know, uh, what do they call that, Mike, where he just kind of hands off and then cuts out and around.
Oh, like the
Um,
read option kind of stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
like a read option type deal. If they're all crashing down because, 9 times out of 10 you're giving the ball to Dylan anyway, everybody's going to the middle. There's not anybody watching Love out and around.
It's a delicate balance because yeah, like we've seen like Ben Fennell and Justice Mosqueda where they all say like your job is to throw the ball to your receiving options
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. But you do want, and especially a guy who is as athletic as Jordan is, where and like big and athletic too, where it's like you want him to run like a couple times every game just to kind of because it does open up his when he rolls out of the pocket because it's like the more times you show you're willing to run, the more that you can
A
get
rollout.
teams.
That's what I
Yeah.
was thinking of. Why the hell couldn't I think of fucking
But
rollout?
the more times you show you're willing to run, the more times that you can like kind of deke a defense into getting and stuff. And I know at times Rogers like he stepped over the line in either direction too far kind of thing. But I do think like Rogers' willingness to run, and the same with Mahomes. It's like everyone jokes is like, oh, Mahomes is gonna wait and wait in the pocket, but when it's like time to win the game, Mahomes will go and run for 20 yards kind of thing and stuff.
Well,
And
and there's been times not just in this game and in the past game where Jordan's broke free from like 1 or 2 sacks and he still can't find a read. Well, fucking just go.
yeah,
You can't
everyone's
find your
behind you
read.
already. Yeah.
You've almost gotten taken down twice now. Just get the hell out of there. Don't
Yeah.
wait for somebody to come around. It'd be different if you had like a Devontae who's been in the league, who knows the way to do things and can cut in, who's going to cut his route short. You still got young guys out there and they're still running the routes. They don't know quite yet that you're in trouble. Just go.
Yeah. But and then rounding it out for the offense, I thought the O line was fine. Just like we've kind of talked about, I wish they would just pick a five and go with it at this point.
And
Um
without breaking it down, I can't really say Runyon was all terrible today.
no, and everyone's gonna point to the one rep where he just got whipped by Jones. But then the ultimate irony of that is everyone's
Sean
like,
Ryan
"Oh,
did the
like
same
Sean,
thing.
yeah, Sean Ryan comes in the game, and everybody's like, oh, finally, it finally did it." And then like his second play of the game that he's in the game, oh, there goes Chris Jones, and yeah, it's like so. I mean, like you can argue like, oh, he lasted a little longer on him than Runyon did, but overall, like I thought Runyon was fine in pass pro. You do see a little bit more movement in the run game and stuff, and like yeah, that's a debate that we'll get into later on and stuff. But
And
overall,
Myers had a couple of things too where it seemed like he was out of place on a couple of blocks, or I think there was one where he was supposed to pull and he completely whiffed on the block that he was supposed to be pulling on. And so I mean it wasn't perfect by any means from the offensive line, but they did better than what they did at the beginning of the year.
yeah. And the main thing there is that their two best players are healthy. Like that's the thing is that Elton Jenkins and Zach Tom are healthy, and when your two best guys on your O line are healthy, your whole O line just looks that much better. So good game from the offense. You like we said, this is a good Kansas City defense, and you put up what is that 382 yards of offense on them. That's an impressive day at the office. So good stuff from the Packers. Like we said, the most, obviously it's really nice that they have their playoff chances in their own hands. But the main thing is that we're just seeing, this wasn't like a fluke win or anything like that. This was a self-propelled, self-generated win. And the offense is just continuing to ascend this season. So that's the kind of growth that we wanted to see this season. On defense, oh, and sorry, before we move on, I thought Dylan had a really good game tonight, and you could tell that his groin was bothering him. Like you can tell that he was kind of like, like I don't really want to make this cut right now and stuff, but he ran hard tonight, and like don't wish injury on anyone, but he did like knock out 2 or 3 of the Chiefs defenders
Yeah.
today, and like nothing was dirty or anything like that, but like, you know, that's the kind of like punishing run attitude you want to see from your 250-pound running back. It
Right.
was
That's what we've
good to
been
get that.
hoping for
Yeah.
from him forever. Now, how do I want to say this diplomatically? I still don't think he's back after the end of the year.
No,
I
yeah.
think they still cut their ties with him, but he's still being capable right now for what he is. And he's still doing what we're hoping he can do. And I have to give him props because he's done a complete 180 compared to what he was looking at the beginning of the season. So, hey, AJ, good on you. I hope the best for you, and I appreciate you going out there injured and all that, but I don't see any more out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
guys, let's
mean,
not get excited about Patrick fucking Taylor. He is Jag, just a guy. I'm serious. Even on the runs that he had, the blocking is why he got the yards he got out of it. Because
yeah.
I don't know what the hell was going on with him.
I know. I saw some people like suggesting like maybe they, you know, they were trying to keep the clock running, but I was like, I was like, I don't know. Like, it's the first half. Like, it's not the end of the game kind of thing. Like, you're not trying to bleed the clock at that point. You're trying to score again and stuff. So yeah, I was kind of like, that's 2 plays in a row, dude. You were like right there, just hop out of bounds kind of thing and
Well,
stuff.
I'm not
Like,
even worried about the out of bounds thing. It just seemed like he decelerated. Whereas we keep saying with like AJ, we want to see him run over guys. It was like Patrick was avoiding the big hit and he decelerated and he hesitated. And it's like you were going full speed and then all of a sudden you stop. If you would
yep.
have just kept going and put on the boosters, you probably could have got a couple more yards. You probably could have broke a tackle. You probably could have done something. I'm so confused at why, but then I kept seeing people, oh yeah, that's what we want. And he's a guy, just a guy. Right now he's just filling up space. James Robinson got a couple of plays. I know the guys, Dan and Amar, were kind of ripping on him on the post game show for Game On, but we didn't get a chance to see anything out of him. They gave him
And
like
his
2
plays were,
plays.
he didn't have a play that was close to blocked as well as the long run that Taylor had. So yeah, like it he's, and because he's a similar kind of runner to AJ where he needs touches to feel out a defense and stuff like that. So I mean, he got two like very um like two very far apart touches in the game kind of thing and stuff. So
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not gonna,
stat wise, he had 2 carries and he had 1 catch,
or
and that
one
was
carry, one catch, or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not gonna grade him much on it. And his one catch, like he had no chance. There were 3 Chiefs waiting for him when he got the ball. So
well.
yeah,
Dan and Amar were just saying, "Oh, well, he looks slow. No wonder he's bouncing around." It's like, how could you tell? He, you know, he didn't get a chance to do anything.
yeah. Like it's not like there was a hole. It's not like there was a gaping hole and he didn't make it to or through the hole kind of thing. Like I don't think either of his touches had any chance of doing any. Like Jones couldn't have done anything with the 2 touches he got. So, but that's, if like you said earlier, if that's what we're nitpicking about, it was a good day at the office for this
Right?
offense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
on defense, they did just enough tonight to get
Well, I'm
this
going
win.
to correct you on that. I think they did more than enough because they only allowed 17 points to the or 19 points to the defending world champions, and they're keeping their streak of sub 20 points a game. So I think they did more than barely enough. They did enough.
We'll start with the good. The pass rush looked pretty damn good tonight, and I know that the Chiefs have 2 very overrated and overpaid offensive tackles, but it was so good to see Lucas have the night he had. Great red zone sack on the first Chiefs drive. He's still like he's still a guy that's kind of like, I've got my bull rush and I'm athletic, and that's what his first pass rush win was. It was like he kind of like dipped his shoulder underneath of not, it wasn't even Donovan Smith at that point, it was his backup, but you saw him push him back and he kind of just was like, I'm gonna disengage and I'm gonna get to the quarterback. And that was as much of a pure like athlete sack, but it was great
But
to see from him.
now we're still in his rookie year, and his
Yep.
2 sacks have come against 2 of the most mobile quarterbacks
Yep.
that you can go against, Justin Fields and Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
If we played the Ravens and he could get a 3rd sack against Lamar, there's no bus talk at all
Yep.
about him.
No. And honestly, he was so close to a second sack, and like, and this is one that Rebrovich is gonna be able to go to the coach's film, and it's like, get your arm on his throwing arm on that one. Like he went for the wrap up instead of going for the throwing arm, and it's like, and I get it. Like he's a rookie. He's like, nope, I don't want to miss. I want to make sure that I wrap this guy up and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, go for that throwing arm. Like
What I'm
you're.
sure he's got to worry, he's
Oh
kind of
yeah,
also
yeah,
worrying
yeah. Like
about
I said,
taking the
I'm
hit on
not.
a guy and
Yeah, I'm not critique. That's one that's like he's gonna get that. Like that's gonna be a strip sack next year, kind of like that. That's
yeah.
gonna be that kind of situation.
And I thought he played the run well too. He had a
Oh
couple
yeah,
of decent stops, so I can't even say it's just homerism for him. He was looking legit good
no,
in
he
the
had
in
a
the
he had
snaps
a
that he
good
had.
game. Yeah, and he had a couple more quarterback hits on top of that. So good game. It's just nice for him to get the all important counting stats that everyone's can see and be like, oh okay, like he's doing something. When in reality we know that he's doing things that aren't gonna show up on the stat sheet, kind of thing. Rashawn got to celebrate his birthday with a half sack, and he was getting chipped by anyone and everyone that ran by him tonight. So it was good to see him produce despite the extra attention. And Kenny just had whoever he was matched up with on skis tonight.
And I
So,
think there was a couple of missed holding calls there too, because
oh
Kenny was
yeah,
getting put to the ground a lot.
yeah. Kenny had a few where he had some choice words for the even I think Carl had one that definitely should have been called.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
yeah, so it was they were letting him play, and we'll get into that later. But I thought the rest of the defense, linebacker level, I thought Quay had a good solid night, and I thought Dre looked kind of old tonight. It was kind of not a
If
great
he's
showing
still
from Dre
dealing with
tonight.
neck issues, though, I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
understand it.
yeah. And then
Hell,
the
we're both in our
DBs.
30s and have back and neck issues, and we wouldn't want to do it either.
And the DBs, they held their water tonight. I thought Savage looked pretty good tonight. I know some people are still bagging on his tackling, but I'm like, that was never his game. His game was to be an
He's
impact
never been a
coverage guy.
tackler.
Yeah. And the first play where he like reaches around Kelsey and like bats the ball out from him on that one play, I was like, that's a good play from Savage, because that's one where he's gotten boxed out by tight ends before. So
I wish I could go back and find my old notes because he was one of the guys that I might be able to go through my old podcast because I know it's in audio form somewhere that Savage. I love Savage, but he was never a tackler. He was a ball hawk. He could follow the ball, but he was never a tackler. And one of the things I bashed him on was tackling. If he could form up his tackling, he'd be unstoppable. But that's where we put a guy like Anthony Johnson Jr. in there, who is your tackling type guy that can play coverage. Hello? Anybody?
yep. Yep. So, and in his place, yeah, Savage played well, and Owens had another strong game, I thought, tonight. And like the only play, and we'll never know because we don't know what the exact call was, but the Chiefs' last touchdown, I think either Owens or Devondre like played that coverage wrong, because you had the two of them kind of standing next to each other in the flat, and then um Gray, the tight end, kind of hooks up behind the both of them. But it's hard to say who's kind of at
Well,
fault
I
on that one.
just looking from what I did on the game, I think to kind of go back to your point with Dre was looking a little old. I think Dre was out of place on a lot of those passes to Kelsey that when Kelsey would break free, it was supposed to be Dre's responsibility, and he missed out on it a lot.
Yeah.
That's again why I said that maybe we needed to get like an Anthony Johnson Jr. just to shadow Travis Kelsey the whole friggin' game. But I just, what are you gonna do? You have an
Yeah.
all-pro friggin' quarterback, an all-pro fucking tight end. They're gonna get theirs. You just got to limit how much they get.
Yep. I thought the corners played pretty well. Valentine, I love his quote about the MVS play at the end of the game. What penalty? There was no flag. So I appreciate that from him, but I thought he was solid in coverage all night. Didn't really see him get targeted much. And Valentine, you know what? From where he came from as a undrafted free agent from a no place college, I appreciate
He was
that.
a 6th round pick.
Oh, or we picked him up though after he
Yeah,
got cut and
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, but yeah, like I just like how he just
I have to correct you because he is not an undrafted free agent. He was drafted.
just
He just
not by
wasn't
us.
drafted by the Packers. He was drafted by the Giants, but he was still drafted.
But I just like that he fights for every bit of real estate on the field. And yeah, he got called for a ticky-tacky DPI that I did not like at all. But I just like how he, like, even if the guy makes the reception, I appreciate that he hounds the ball all the way to the ground. Like, I do like seeing that out of my quarterbacks. And I just thought he had another solid game. And then Nixon came up with the big interception. It looked like Sky Moore didn't know, like, do I keep running? Do I stop? Do I do what kind of thing? And I just appreciate that Nixon was like, fuck it. I'm going to go get it. So,
well, the game on guys, and I think I saw it a couple of times on Twitter, said it right. That was Razul like against the Cardinals, where it was almost an identical play. It was almost identical, period. Wide receiver didn't know what the hell was going on. The ball just kind of floated. Keyshawn was in the best place to make the play, and he made the play.
Yep. And just really, you don't get many opportunities against Mahomes, but they made it count and stuff. So on to the Barry part of it. We kind of touched on it. I don't know what the plan was for Kelsey, but it wasn't good enough. Like, he's the one guy that can beat you on this Chiefs team, and he still catches 4 out of his 5 targets for 80 yards. And it's like
I said, I think half of those were when he broke open. I think Dre had responsibility, and he was reading it wrong. So I can't fully put the blame on Barry on those, although I can partially, because again, he's got other guys on the team that he could have threw out there. Hell, half the time they want to throw 3 safeties out there anyway. Why don't you have Owens, Johnson, and Savage out there at the same time?
Especially because I think there's still that stat where, like, by whatever advanced stat or like quarterback rating you want to put, like, Kelsey is like 30 points worse when less efficient when he's covered by a safety or a DB of some sort than when he's covered by a linebacker or whatever kind of thing. And then the 3-man rush on the 3rd and 18, it's like, come on, like, your pass rush is actually winning. Like, don't take that opportunity away from them. And then I know that, like, you got to give something up, but it's like, you can't be giving up 6 yards of rush on any given play kind of thing and stuff.
Especially when we were talking about how their run game wasn't that great, and we still allowed them 100 and some odd yards to Pacheco alone.
Yeah. 100, basically, like, it's 150, it's 148, it's 150 yards again back-to-back weeks. So it's gonna be what it's gonna be. So that's why we're not.
Did you hold your breath when they said that a player was getting ejected?
No, only because I saw the replay and stuff, and just because, like, I did see sort of what was happening between, like, because and that was another one where it was kind of like, I don't know what the hell, why the hell Collinsworth was framing it the way he did, because there was all like, well, like, Nixon, he did something to Pacheco on the block. And then when you see the replay, I was like, he just blocked him into the ground. Like, not even like, he didn't like pancake him or like push his head in the dirt.
No, but he was getting a little extra when Pacheco was trying to get up. So I can understand it, but I have to because Tarico just kept saying, "Well, we don't have video of what's going on. We didn't see,
Yeah.
we can't jump to replay." And all they're talking about is, "Well, somebody's definitely getting ejected on this one." And like, uh oh,
Yeah,
what the
and then
hell's going on now?
when they showed the little pylon cam from the first down marker, I was like, yeah, we know who's getting ejected. There's no mysteries about that one.
I have to give Kingsley or JJ credit that he stepped up and grabbed Keyshawn before Keyshawn did anything to
Yeah,
retaliate.
because
Um,
Keyshawn is a little bit hood, so like,
yeah, so he just I'm happy for that.
take care of your
Um,
teammates, like in
yeah,
any way that you need to take care of your teammates, and
and
like you
really, you
said,
never want to see anybody ejected. Period. But it was a little too late for Pacheco.
yeah.
It would have been a lot better if they would have ejected him like 2 quarters earlier.
But yeah, I mean, the defense is going to be the defense. We're going to highlight the good plays they make, and it's nice that it's our two guys tonight who had good highlight plays tonight. A few of them. So,
And
like I
you
said,
just got to roll with it. There's nothing they're gonna do.
yep.
They're not gonna cut loose Barry in the middle of the season. I'm worried that the more and more we go on, they're not gonna cut him loose. Period.
Every day, I just pray that Robert Sala gets blamed for everything wrong with the Jets, and they they fire him instead of what's his face, the general manager, because I think Sala is the only like surefire way that we definitely get a change at defensive coordinator.
I'm
So
getting to the point I don't even think that's gonna change it.
I know
But
that voice is starting to like kind of come over my shoulder too, but we'll leave that one there. Special teams, they were special tonight. Anders gets to have his name pronounced correctly again tonight.
yeah, Amr, it's Anders. I'm getting tired of tuning into your post game chats, and you still continue to call him Anders. It's Anders.
He's not a Star Wars character. He's German. He is of
So
Aryan descent. He is Anders. But no, he like especially after the last couple weeks where, like I said, I didn't put all the misses on. I didn't put the misses totally on him because as much as like yes, you do want to see him overcome like the issues around him, you can't discount that the snaps were not good the last couple weeks. But tonight, the whole operation looked a lot smoother. Whelan didn't need to go and reach like he wasn't reaching behind him and stuff like that to corral the long snaps. Everything was kind of right in the breadbasket, and Anders was putting him right down the middle tonight. It
and
was
I
just a
loved
good
how they
moment.
were trying to jinx the hell out of him too, on that last
Well,
field goal.
and Tarico honestly was doing it to both of them because Tarico kept doing the I don't know if you caught it, but even when Butker kicked off the first time, he got in the Harrison Butker, who hasn't missed a kick this year, kind of thing. And
But he
so
was doing his best there at the end where, it was, oh, well, he just hasn't been able to hit,
yeah,
in the pregame, he just wasn't able to hit him from this side of the field. And it's like, God.
honestly, I feel better when they say stuff like that because I'm like, okay, like you're kind of like setting me up for like, okay, disappointment might be coming. So I'm usually I always get more nervous when it's he hasn't missed a kick in 472 days kind of
Yeah.
thing and stuff like that's
Yeah.
always the one that I'm like, shut up, don't say it, don't say it. So, but yeah, great game from Anders. He deserves his flowers today, and because they weren't easy kicks, especially like we said, that last one, he got kind of screwed by LaFleur and Love's LaFleur's play call and Love having to just kind of eat the sack on that last drive. So because that was a 33 or 35-yard field goal that got turned into a 53-yard field
Yeah.
goal.
The only
So
thing I got on this one is I don't know if it was like play call. I don't know if it was conditions, but for as big a leg as we've been told Anders has, he still was kicking it short of the end zone.
yeah, I don't know what's going on. And I don't think it was very windy tonight either. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm not sure what we need someone to ask Bisaccia about that. Like because that would be another thing too. Is it's like, okay, like you're using his big leg to sky the ball, kind of thing. Like, and I
Yeah.
can understand that kind of thing. It, but also it kind of makes less sense because they have the NFL adopted the college fair catch rule where
Yeah.
if you catch a kickoff, it's you get that at the 25 kind of thing and stuff. So, but so be it. Like, maybe you get someone with that itchy trigger finger like Keyshawn. So, like, if that's the strategy, okay, like I'm fine with it. The coverage units have been solid on kick returns anyway. So, if that's the strategy they're going with, then so be it. But we got our first opportunity to see Whelan kick in the cold, and he didn't
But we
disappoint tonight.
haven't seen him in the weather yet, and that's
No,
the big condition.
right.
And it still wasn't like sub-zero temperatures.
Yeah. But
I know
it
I keep
was
moving the goalposts on this,
no, but
but
honestly, that's totally fair because it's and to be fair to us, we said bad weather, and you know, we're talking about like, okay, like the worst of the worst of the worst that you're gonna get at some point, especially if the Packers, well, they won't be hosting a playoff game unless like the 6 and the 7 seeds make it to the NFC Championship game kind of thing. But it's good to see, like, yeah, we want to make sure that he's prepared for the absolute worst conditions, but at the same time, it was, I think, like, by Fahrenheit, it was sub freezing kind of thing and stuff. So it was good to see
it was like
him.
22 or 24 or
Yeah, yeah,
something
yeah.
like
So
that. So I mean, it
not
wasn't
the
warm, but
yeah,
it also wasn't like 4 degrees with wind chill
yeah,
factor of negative
yeah.
14 and
Do want to see him navigate the wind in Lambeau, but it was good to, that ball feels like a rock when it's that cold already. So it was good to see him still nail a couple tonight. Um,
and there was good coverage on that. They really,
yep,
they pinned him down deep on that last punt.
yep.
And that you couldn't ask for more out of that one.
Yep. So good night from the special teams.
And I
Um,
honestly thought on you have not much for returns, but the one kick or I think it was a punt return from Keyshawn where it looked like he could have took it. He got a
oh, the kick return.
decent
No, the kick return. Yeah, he got it
yeah.
out past the 30. Yeah, that one was it was well, it was a nice solid return to like then stuff. But
But
yeah,
if I think there was one guy or there was a couple of blocks that got
yeah,
missed that had they picked him up, he
yeah.
could have maybe
He passed the one blocker, and that guy I forget who it was, but he tried to like kind of get back in front of Keyshawn, and Keyshawn's like, nah, it's too late. Like, I'm
yeah.
just going at this point. So yeah. But it's trending. I like you said, I think it's trending up. The specialties play is trending up at the right time of year. Joe, who's your MVP for tonight?
I This is one of those games where there's no wrong answer.
Yeah,
I think I got to give it to Jordan again, just because he like we said, you're nitpicking if you find something wrong with his game tonight,
yep,
and that we've been over everything he's done. There's nothing you can say against him outside of maybe a couple of decisions or
yep.
maybe a throw or two. So I got to give it to Jordan. We got to keep tally of these at one.
Yeah, I know.
So at the end of the year, we can just say, this is our yearly or our year MVP.
Yeah, and just to be different, I'll go with Romeo. Just continuing to add to his collection of important catches on the season. Catches the big fourth down conversion. Converts the
I just thought of
converts the
it.
second and 16.
The greatest line of the whole commentary of the night was after the Romeo catch. Because Tirico goes, well, Jordan Love must be a heck of a cornhole player.
Yeah. That one was for Midwest audiences only. You got people on the East Coast and the West Coast going, what the hell is Tirico talking about? But no, I mean, that honestly is what that throw, and the part for me that made me chuckle as from someone who played receiver is when they show the angle from behind the end zone and you see Dobbs, because he comes out of the break and he looks back and you can see the moment where Jordan's thrown the ball at that point already, and you can see the point where he's looking back at the pocket and he can tell Jordan's thrown the ball because you see his head just immediately go, where is it? And by that point, the ball is dropping out of the lights at him at that point. So it's just always funny to see because it's like, oh, like how did was Dobbs tracking that one the whole way? You always hear like, oh, like like the thing with Devontae was like, oh, like he's so good at tracking the ball and he puts his hands out late so the DB can't time it up and swipe the ball away and blah, all that kind of stuff. And it makes me crack up better when it works out like this play where it's like, yeah, he saw that thing at the last possible moment, and the throw was so good that it would have fallen in his lap anyway, kind of thing. So it might not have mattered if he saw it or didn't see it, where it's like he just has to catch it if it bounces off of him, kind of thing. So yeah, I just it's fun to see how much trust Love has in Dobbs, and it seems like the higher the stakes or the higher the degree of difficulty, the better Dobbs is at making the reception. So, good stuff from between those two. LVP, we're you know what? Let's just skip that for this week because
I
we're
got
just
mine.
gonna be.
I've got LVP on top of LVP. And
Okay.
it's not a player. It's not anything like that. It's the commentary of the NBC guys, Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth. Again, like I got on my soapbox earlier, they really showed their bias. I know it sounds like sour grapes and hard feelings, but it really did. It was really stupid that they kept going back to these quote unquote 2 non-calls when, like we mentioned, there were some hold calls that probably got missed. There were other calls that got missed during the game. The refs were doing their job. They were letting these guys play. We had some against us that were questionable. They had some against them that was questionable. It's like you hope, like we talked about with Miranda, and that where it's kind of like baseball, where this guy's going to call these things badly. His strike zone's like this big, but at least it's that big for both sides. It's not a one-sided affair. So that's my LVP this week is Tirico and Collinsworth, that they really, I don't know if it was the guys in their ears telling them, hey, you need to talk about this. I don't know what it was, but like I said, something needs to be checked on it.
Yeah. And on that note, I'll just say the last 1 minute of officiating because like Terry McCauley, who I think needs to be retired because he's had some moments this year where I'm like, he's definitely old man yelling at a clouding tonight. But he had another like about as good as Tarico's cornhole commentary where McCauley after the game goes, we had 59 minutes of great, like like you said, they were for the most part kind of letting them play, like there wasn't over officiating from the crew. And then the last minute nobody knew what the hell was going on. So I know we'll just call that last minute of refereeing because they just didn't know what was happening. Everyone's like, oh, but there were two that went in the Chiefs' direction, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, there was, what's it called? The hit on Mahomes. And then the other big one is MVS shouldn't have gotten a clock stoppage on his reception. Like, he's not even going sideways out of bounds. Ballantyne is dragging him backwards out of bounds. That clock should not have been stopped. And in that case, the final Hail Mary doesn't happen because the Chiefs run out of time at that point. So,
well, then, like we both said earlier, there was a couple of holds that weren't called. There was the ticky-tacky DPI that was called. They went both ways. There was no bias shown.
It evened itself out in the end, I think. Yeah. But, yep.
And I have to give NBC credit. It wasn't the Taylor Swift fest that we all thought it was going to be.
Yeah, like I think they showed Simone more than her tonight. So yeah,
or I do want to talk about that. This shows you how much of Celeb Fest this game was. We had Taylor Swift, we had Simone Biles, Tony Shalhoub, WWE superstar Liv Morgan, Lil Wayne. We had all these people show up for the Packer game.
Yep. Good shit. But that's
I'm
going to
sure
do it for
Kevin
us tonight.
Baumgartner was out there somewhere.
Maybe even Paul Rudd was out there somewhere tonight. But it's getting late for both of us, so that's going to do it for us tonight. Like Joe said earlier, we're going to enjoy Victory Monday for this one. This one's a little sweeter. Please give us a follow on Twitter. I'm at Kawano Mike. Joe is at Iowa_Joe86. The podcast is at Ohana_Packers. Please check out our website, ohanapackers.org. We have the streams of all of the podcasts, plus all of our blog posts. We're continuing to get content out there on that site, so please give us support there. Please follow the podcast on your favorite podcasting apps. Give us a like, a subscribe if you enjoy what you're hearing. Please do leave comments, regardless of whether they're positive or negative. We do take those to heart. Packers fans, your team is at 6-6, 500 again, and they have their playoff destiny in their hands. The road, it gets easier, but we're going to see how this team does with a little pressure on its back. That's going to do it for us for this week from week 13. Go Pack Go, and aloha.